Okay, hi, I'm Nijea, and I'm going to be doing my my refutation speech on Sam's. His main point was that the SAT is harmful to high school students, or it's harmful to high school students' educational opportunities. His three main claims were that there's no relationship to the performance a student has in high school to their SAT scores. A student's scores are more closely related to their socioeconomic status of their parents than their performance in the classroom. And 3, standardized tests are not necessary to determining college preparedness. Now, I have 3 points against that. Against his first claim, the fact that class grades are not accurately, how do I say this? They're not, it's no accurate way to tell across the board, across the country, if someone's A in Wisconsin is the same as someone's A in California. To a second, the SAT scores, it's not just the SAT scores that are related to this person's socioeconomic status, it's their grades in school as well. And to his final point, the standardized tests are the only way to properly show how ready someone is for college. So class grades cannot be accurately compared across the country, so the SAT is the only way to be fair to all students. He brings up the fact that the GPA has gone up while SAT scores have gone down. But what he doesn't bring up is the fact that, once again, we cannot accurately tell if grade inflation is happening in every classroom. For all we know, the class down the hall could be boosting the grades while the other teacher who's teaching the same subjects is choosing not to do that. According to College Board, grade inflation is making it hard to show distinctions in students' achievements using high school grades GPA alone. He also ignores the fact that in 2005, the essay portion was added to the SAT, which the changing score from 1,600 to 2,400, and the CEO of College Board said this was to give students more opportunities rather than to obstruct them with test questions. He also ignores the fact that in 2016, when he says the scores have drastically dropped, that they have changed the test again. SAT words, those super hard words, have been removed. They made the essay optional, although some schools still require it. They're giving students more time, and there are fewer sections on the test, and the amount of actual answers you were given has been cut down. So it's basically put the SAT back to 116. And in 2016, if you include the essay, the score is 1484, which is only 16 points below what is considered by a prep scholar a good SAT score, which is 1500. And then without the essay, it is 1002, which is 2 points over what is considered a good score on the 1600 scale. And so basically, if we can't use a student's GPA, so since the SAT has changed multiple times, even if the scores are going down and yet grades are going up, maybe it's not the test, maybe it's just the education the students are getting in class. My second point, it's not just SAT scores, but grades that are related to a person's socioeconomic status. So Sam argues that the money gap is in relation to the SAT scores that a student gets, but he only focuses on the SAT scores, not the person's GPA. The Washington Post reports that parents of young children, parents in the top 25%, they have more books at home, they read to their children more. The mothers are 50% more likely to read to their children at night. And children ages 6 to 7 are actually more likely to be put in extracurricular activities if their parents have money, which is all this to say, wealthier families have more time and more money to invest in their child's education. So it's gonna have, their grades in high school have been shown to actually be better, not just their SAT score. And finally, standardized tests are the only fair way to show college preparedness. Sam argued that because one single college had basically made the submission of the SAT scores like you had the choice to submit them, it caused the non-white students to have a higher attendance in the school. But this is only from one school, and there's no data to show if more minorities actually applied to that school in that 5-year span, or if less white students applied. And there's also no way to show if the students who did get in actually submitted SAT scores. So in the end, okay, so all this to say, the SAT is the kind of only way that we can know if someone's prepared for college.
All right, it got a little confusing because it's like we had a double preview. Here's what the advocate's claims are. Here are the claims that I'm going to be making in response to the advocate's claims, and then you get to the claims and you repeat the process. So I think that that's probably one step too far, and it's not necessary. On the argument concerning grades on the first point, I think that you have a good counter issue here with the idea of grade inflation. You could use a little bit more information on it. Did we have that speech in here? Mm-hmm. That was your speech, right? Yeah. I mean, I think you could have just said, Josie's speech was full of, all that information about how there's grade inflation all over the place, and it screwed things up, and it makes it difficult to make comparisons. So I think you need to develop that argument a little bit. I think it's a good counterpoint. I just think you need a little bit more evidence to sell that. And you do make the argument down below that says, maybe it's not really the schools, but it's the education. I think there's plenty of argument and information to suggest that problems with the schools have continued, that they're being less successful than they ever were on all kinds of measures, and that it's not just the SAT that is having these problems. There are other things as well. The relationship between the SAT and the GPA, their achievement in classes and their socioeconomic income, I thought that was very effective. You had lots of explanations on that. You had one good quote that explained a whole bunch of the points on that second point, so that's a good counterclaim there. I think, again, as I said to somebody earlier, you need to maybe look at their evidence a little bit more and the way they're reasoning, but the counterclaim is fine. And then the argument about it being the only fair way to make this comparison, I think you asked some okay questions about the one example that the advocate cited, but they're just a few questions here. There's not any research, there's not any obvious reason that suggests that this study or this example is atypical or not representative. So I think that since you're making the argument that there might be a problem with the way this has been reasoned, need to offer a little bit more grounds for your argument there. All right, thank you.